Hey everyone, we are in beautiful Moab, Utah today, adventure capital of the United States. And for our purposes today, it is the off-road adventure capital of the United States. We're going to be taking a look at a Jeep. The Jeep in question is a 2014 Rubicon. 4-door. I've met up with the owner here. His name is John. He is a guide from Minneapolis. He comes over to Moab a few times a year to do hiking and photography and Jeep tours. So if you're interested in learning more about him and what he does, I'll put his information in the video description below. So let's go talk to John and learn a little bit more about his rig and how he has it all set up and how he sleeps in it.
Hi, I'm John. I'm an outfitter in Moab, Utah, and this is a look at my 2014 Jeep Rubicon. It is an unlimited 4-door, as you can see, and purchased this in 2015 with the primary intent of running mild trails. It's also been used as a long-distance highway commuter, and I've set it up for overnights and day-to-day trail use. My background is rock crawling, and I found out that being out far from civilization, sometimes you find yourself unexpectedly spending the night. So I wanted a rig that would work for overnights on a moment's notice, or even if I ended up being caught somewhere. Additionally, built for long distance driving, trips, road trips if you will, and giving me a place to stay along the road. Let's take a look inside. As you can see, we've got a shelf built in here out of some basic angle iron and plywood. The plywood is bolted to these two brackets, and the brackets are attached to the mounting bolts which hold on the factory hardtop. A lot of options here for tying down gear. I've got some basic kitchen supplies, first aid kit, extra sleeping bag, some tools, and some sanitation equipment. Now I did remove the factory storage compartment in the back here, and I created a raised platform. This is made out of pine 1x3, so it actually raises this up from the level of the stock Jeep. So I've got storage in here. I've got a recovery kit, a small tool kit, shovels, some tarps, and this plywood lid that sits on top. Now the reason for this is this raises this deck area to a height that is approximately level with the back seats when they're folded down. Okay, so back here again we've got the, you can see the factory floor in the Jeep and the raised platform with the 1x3 pine. A little hard to see, it's covered in carpet. But again, this raised platform and the storage that we looked at from the rear. Now I left this full depth here. This allows for the upright storage of the Freedom panels that remove from the roof. If you're a Jeep owner, you're aware there's an option to store those panels vertically behind the rear seats. Once the seats are folded down, as you can see, from this back platform, what I've done is I've got a piece of 2x2, if you will, here to fill in this gap. And then I've got 3/8 plywood covered in automotive carpet, which drops in here and gives a level surface across this trench area and across the angled, uneven back seats. Now I've created a level platform all the way across the back of the Jeep. I've got sleeping pad here. This is a high density foam that's available from a well-known national retailer. These are about $7 a piece that I have cut to fit in here. And I just use these as kind of a lower base layer that I put underneath my memory foam mattress, or actually it's my memory foam mattress topper. So I tend to bottom out in that foam a little bit with my hips and shoulders, and this alleviates any discomfort on my hips and my shoulders. It works real well. Next we'll grab the memory foam and show you how that fits in here. We're back. As I mentioned, this is a 3-inch gel or memory foam mattress topper. I believe I purchased a full size, and bread knife or utility knife works really well to cut this to shape. As you can see, I've got this passenger seat folded all the way forward, and this is cut around the console. This does allow for a little over 6 feet from the tailgate to the back of the seats. So that's it. We've got the high density foam underneath, 3 inches of memory foam right there. I topped this off with a flannel sheet. Little tip I learned trying to put sheets on a bed in a Jeep or a van. Generally try and find the center of my sheet and work from the middle of the bed outward. That seems to be the best, but I do like to have a nice cotton flannel sheet. Spend a lot of sleeping in cold weather. I'm basically going to just put this in here just for appearance looks. I do have a fitted sheet for this as well, but today this is the one we're working with. Okay, so the bed is made, and now I've got Reflectix, which we're going to install on the front door windows and the windshield as well. This is standard. If you're sure you're aware of it, it's available at hardware stores. I actually made patterns out of craft paper before I cut into my Reflectix. One thing I learned, this stuff does expand and contract a lot with the weather. So when it does get cold, it gets a little smaller. It might not fit as well, but I've cut these just a little bit oversized, and it drops into that channel right there on the bottom. And then it's just an easy press in right behind that weather stripping. Makes a nice light-proof seal. It keeps out light and keeps in the temperature as well. All right, moving on to the back doors, I've got these screened louvers in here. These allow ventilation, which is very important. I sleep cold and that I don't heat my sleeping space, and that does require that I do have some ventilation. If not, find that condensation from the moist breathing will condense vapor inside the vehicle, particularly on the roof. And if you get enough of it, it'll start dripping on you. But as you can see, these louvers have screens in the back to keep the bugs out, so I can get ventilation on a rainy, buggy night. I've got blackout curtains here, which I had built. These are attached with Velcro and are easy to remove and store. And I can also open up this upper section to keep that ventilation going through. So these style of blackout Velcro on curtains are for both the back doors, the side windows on the cargo compartment, and the rear glass as well. This one allows me to completely black out the inside of my vehicle, where I can have it completely dark in broad daylight or a well-lit parking lot, and it also affords me privacy when I'm sleeping. These louver screens I sourced online. They're from a company in Germany, which we can get the URL up for you hopefully later. It was a little bit of leap of faith because I was dealing with a language barrier, but I did give them my credit card number, and they did ship them promptly. They were around $50 for the pair and about $50 for shipping, if I remember. Now that was about 5 years ago, but around $100. In my opinion, money very well spent, because as I mentioned, the ability to have the vehicle ventilated, particularly when it's raining out, is paramount. And a very good friend of mine, talented seamstress, I made patterns for her for these curtains as well. I cut patterns out of craft paper or brown shopping bags from the grocery store, if you will, and just kind of gave her the general shape that I wanted. This is actual blackout fabric that I sourced from a store. These are actual curtains that I bought, and I just used those to source the fabric from. But they are a blackout curtain sold by a couple of big national retailers. So as I mentioned, this Jeep has probably been driven by me literally 40,000 miles cross country, a lot of highway miles, and a lot of sleeping in rest areas along freeways and in truck stops. I also do occasion to take it off-road and camp in remote locations, but it's built as a dual purpose. I wanted to have the ability to run down the highway at 75, 80 miles an hour and still be very capable off-road to from moderate to lightly difficult trails. So some of the modifications that have been done to this Rubicon are 2.5-inch AEV lift. I've also relocated the evaporation canister, which is vulnerable, added some skid plates, a worn winch bumper mounting system, and we've got the AEV roof rack. I prefer to store most of my gear. I've got a couple of hard cases that I use, but I've also found that flexible dry bags work well. That way I've got all my gear on the roof and I'm sleeping inside when it's windy and rainy. Got some rock guards on here, a few other modifications as well. We were equipped with CB radios and GMRS radios, both by Midland, USA. There's been many a day where I've been on a trail and then gotten out and driven another 150 miles down the freeway, and this vehicle allows me to do that. So again, this shelf, this is a standard, I don't know what they call this, an angle bracket. You can find this at most hardware stores. And this was, I have 2 pieces cut to length. And then I do have a piece of, I believe it's 3/8 plywood that I've bolted to this shelf. Now it's bolted in a few different locations. I've also got some of these anti-skid shelving things on here. But the shelf, it's crucial that the grain of the plywood runs lengthwise. That does add to the lateral support of this. I've got a fire extinguisher, very securely mounted to the roll bar. Don't want that to become a flying projectile in the event of an accident. This is actually a ice cube tray made by Sterlite, which I've drilled some holes in. I've secured this with a bungee cord. I use this to store some liquid things, cleanups. This is actually just a spray bottle of isopropyl alcohol. I use that for sanitizing. I've never used this sleeping bag. This is just a 35-degree sleeping bag, which I keep in here for emergency first aid or additional warmth, but I've never actually used it. Beach towel always comes in handy. I've got pretty good medical kit here, which I've assembled myself. And then this is my basic mess kit. I've got a couple of different pots in here, a camp stove, extra fuel, paper plates, and the ever important French press and coffee. I've also got my camera tripod securely mounted in here and some additional storage. And as you can see, with the curtains down and the reflectix, even on this sunny day, the interior is quite dark. So inside my rear storage, I've got the Warn Recovery Kit, which includes a tree saver, set of gloves, a choker chain, and some shackles, as well as a snatch block. I've got a small socket kit here, a military folding shovel, a siphon hose, and a couple of tarps for emergency purposes. So that all fits under here. This is equipment that's rarely accessed. I've also got a couple pieces of rope, but that all just sits in there. Traded in my hard tool kits for the roll bags. Again, I like soft-sided stuff. It packs easier, and it doesn't have hard and sharp edges, which can be very hazardous if they become projectiles.
Well, thanks, John, for having me out here and showing us your rig. Let people know more about you and what you do and where they can find you online.
Well, thanks, Tristan. Nice to meet you as well. Appreciate this opportunity. As I mentioned, I'm a guide and outfitter in Moab. I do 4-wheel drive tours, hiking trips, and photographer-led hikes as well. So I can get you out to all the great locations. Also got a lot of great local intel. So website, jgoutfitters.com. Also Facebook, JG Outfitters, and on Instagram, JG_outfitters. Thanks again, Tristan.
Thank you, John. And if you guys have any questions about John or his build, leave a comment below and I'll make sure he sees those questions. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.